Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving deep into something I think we can all relate to, friendship conflicts. I've got some excerpts here. These aren't just like the surface level stuff, you know.
Yeah.
These actually go into how these conflicts can actually help us build even stronger bonds in the end.
Absolutely. I mean, conflict, it's just part of life, right? But these excerpts, they go way beyond just, that saying communication is key.
Right.
They get into like the real nitty-gritty of why these conflicts even happen in the first place, and then how to actually practically address them so we can, come out stronger on the other side.
Okay, so the sources, right off the bat, they basically say, look, having conflicts in friendships, it's normal.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean like the friendship is doomed. It's
Exactly.
just part of being human, but I feel like we all have that moment of panic, like,
Yeah.
oh no, is this like a red flag? Is this the beginning of the end?
Totally. We jump to conclusions way too easily, I
Yeah.
think. But what I found fascinating is that the excerpts actually dive into the psychology behind all of this.
Ooh, interesting.
Like you mentioned a friend constantly canceling plans, right?
Mhm.
Well, the sources, they suggest that a lot of times this actually stems from much deeper fears, like a fear of intimacy or vulnerability.
Really?
It's not always about just being flaky or, intentionally trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
It could be like a subconscious way of self-protecting.
So it's less about me taking it personally and more about understanding like what's going on with them.
Exactly.
What do the sources say about how to address like that underlying fear though?
Well, they recommend approaching the conversation with genuine curiosity
Okay.
rather than accusation. So instead of jumping in with, "You always cancel on me,"
Right.
maybe try something like, "Hey, I've noticed you've been really busy lately. Is everything okay?"
Oh, that's good.
That kind of opens the door for them to share what's really going on
Yeah.
without feeling like they're being attacked, right?
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It shifts the focus from blame to like actually just understanding each other.
Right. And that's where things like active listening come in.
Mm-hmm.
The source material actually gives some really specific tips, like reflecting back what you hear,
Okay.
just to make sure you're really understanding them. So you could say something like, "It sounds like you're feeling kind of overwhelmed and need some space right now. Is that right?"
That's such a good tip.
Mm.
That reminds me of a conflict I had with a friend where we just had totally different values about work-life balance.
Oh, yeah.
I'm all about downtime. She was always like, hustle, hustle, hustle.
I know that's...
And I always felt like she just didn't respect my boundaries.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Differing values. That's like another huge theme that pops up in the sources.
Yeah, makes sense.
They actually use this example of two friends who disagree about politics.
Ooh, that's a tough one these days.
Right. One's a total activist. The other's like, "I'm staying out of it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, of course, leads to all this tension and judgment.
So how do you navigate that? I mean, you can't just like change your core values.
Right. You're right. You can't. But you can learn to respect and understand each other's perspectives, even if they're totally different from your own.
Okay.
And the source suggests setting really clear boundaries and expectations around those values.
I like that.
So, for example, the friends could agree to just avoid political discussions altogether.
Probably a good idea.
Or maybe they designate certain times and places where, those conversations are just off limits.
So it's about finding that middle ground where you can coexist peacefully.
Exactly. It takes effort from both sides, though.
Right.
It's not about one person conforming to the other person's values.
Mm.
It's about finding a way to coexist respectfully despite those differences.
But what about those situations where even if you try all of that,
Yeah.
it's just like, it's not working?
Right.
The source talks about recognizing when to walk away from a toxic friendship.
Yeah.
How do you even know when you're at that point?
Well, the excerpts, they give some pretty clear signs to look out for. Like constantly feeling drained, or you're always giving more than you're receiving in the friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Or if the friendship starts to actually become harmful to your well-being.
Oof, yeah.
Those are some pretty big red flags that it might be time to create some distance.
That makes sense. But walking away is so hard. I had to end a friendship a while back that had become totally one-sided. And honestly, I felt so much guilt.
Yeah.
It's like mourning a loss almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And the sources, they totally acknowledge that ending a friendship, even a toxic one, is a really emotional process.
Yeah.
It's important to allow yourself to grieve that loss while also prioritizing your own self-care.
Wow. This has been so insightful. So just to recap for everyone, we've learned that friendship conflicts, they're totally normal.
Yeah.
They often come from deeper issues. Communication is key. And sometimes walking away is actually the healthiest option.
It's true.
There's so much nuance to it, though.
Oh, definitely. The sources go into all of that.
Here's a final thought for you all to consider. We've been focusing on friendships today, but how can these insights about conflict resolution, empathy, and boundary setting apply to other relationships in your life? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next time.